Stage on Screen, we are a DVD production company. We commission Greenwich Theatre to put on plays of our choosing, and they then produce the play. It runs at Greenwich for 3 weeks a month, and we come in on the last couple of nights with multiple cameras, with the actors mic'd up, and we film. We film 2 productions, the afternoon and the evening show, but actually to date the 4 DVDs that we've released have all just been the evening production, and we use the afternoon production as slightly a bit of a warm-up for the cameramen, and a trial run and a bit of cover. So today we've released, as I said, 4 productions. We've done Dr. Faustus, School for Scandal, The Duchess of Malfi and Volpone. These were completed about halfway through 2010. We've spent the last year basically developing all our distribution systems, which has included setting up a proper UK distribution system, US and Canada, Australia, and Taiwan. The feature pack is just the play, and that's licensed for home use. That is the absolute full play, uncut, subtitled if you want it, and that's very useful for any student who's studying Dr. Faustus and perhaps sitting an exam on it shortly. For the schools and for universities, we produce the education pack. That has the play itself, which is the same as the feature. It then has round about an hour's worth of interviews with the whole company, and we will try, we vary it slightly from production to production, but we'll make sure all the key actors are in there, key parts, the director, the lighting designer, and the set designer. On this one, actually, I think the best interview is actually with the stage management team, because nobody interviews them, and actually they're fascinating what they do. So that goes in that, and then we have a third disc, which has actually been very popular with teachers, which is a single locked off camera at the back of the auditorium that films the whole play without a break. And it means that if you're a teacher and you're teaching blocking or lighting, or you just want to skip from scene to scene or something like that, it's just a very, very useful. It's a very useful piece, and you can see how the whole thing looks. Stage on Screen came about. We started work on it almost 5 years ago. And we then went into production in 2009. The idea for Stage on Screen came largely from an initial idea that it was possible to film plays direct onto the stage with no gimmickry. You didn't need to do a TV production now of a stage play, and that's partly down to the quality of cameras nowadays. The actual idea came from one of my co-directors, Richard Adams, who was very keen to go and film live theatre. We had an initial plan, our first ever business plan, was to go to theatre companies and buy the rights to the recording of the play in question, and try to pick classic plays that were rarely performed, and whatever was best, as it were, in the West End or around the country. When we initially pitched this idea to our investors, it got rejected immediately, because it was pointed out to us that actually you'd spend longer sorting out the legal problems than you would actually sort of filming or getting anything done, and actually sort of by the time you had sorted out the contracts and everything like that, probably the play would have finished. So that idea was sort of rather sunk. And then, whilst we were sort of constructing the second business plan, we were doing a lot of research on education and potential sales to schools and to universities, and it quickly became very clear that within the UK, say, there are 30 or 40 plays that appear regularly on the syllabuses across the 4 major exam boards, that there are few if any recordings of them, and that these plays really never go out of fashion. I myself did, for A-level 25 years ago, Dr. Faustus, and I know that that's the set text this year on some of the major exam boards. So we could see that there were sort of 30 or 40 plays that would be very popular with schools and universities. And we took that idea, and then really the the major change was, instead of going to a theatre company and buying the rights to recording, we felt that it would be simpler and more sensible actually if we set up our own production company. Working with Greenwich Theatre, it's but most importantly, it's a huge amount of serendipity. That we were looking for a production company who would do the plays that we chose in a style that was faithful to the text, is the way we describe it. That we don't like to edit the text. We don't like to nothing too outlandish, because our feeling is that for many students studying these plays, this is the first time they may be seeing it, and it's a slight disservice to them, and it's a disservice to the playwright if you don't concentrate on the text, but I'll come to that later. We were looking for a production company, we were looking for a theatre. We'd had, within our business model, our investors, our potential investors, were happy that we had now sort of created a business model that worked. So really, just through friends of friends, we had an introduction to Greenwich Theatre, and we went down to see the managing director, James Hadrill, and really within about 30 minutes we had concluded a deal. Greenwich Theatre lost their Arts Council funding, I believe, in 1999. Prior to that, certainly in the 80s and the early 90s, they had been one of London's leading production houses, and had a very sort of august history. That had fallen into abeyance. They were very, very keen to get back into production. They have a very strong educational remit. So actually, when we went down and saw them and we suggested the first 4 plays that we wanted to do, they were very, very keen, because it fulfilled their brief as well, and it got Greenwich Theatre back into being a production house again, which is the standard by which all theatres are measured. Once we'd reached an agreement with Greenwich Theatre that we were going to put on 4 plays over the course of the year. We put them in pairs. So our first pair was Dr. Faustus and The School for Scandal. We left it entirely in their hands to find the director. The director then had complete control of the casting. And really, as I said previously, our only brief to them really was to cut the text as little as possible, because we know that teachers like to teach the full text, and also not to make it too outlandish, and to try and have a clear through line on the production. As I said, that we feel that students coming to a play like Dr. Faustus for the first time, a very clear translation of the play is helpful to them. So we then we chose the first two, School for Scandal and Dr. Faustus, and literally we then disappeared for about 6 weeks, and they got on with it. They put the company together, commissioned the sets, commissioned everything, and the first time we knew what we were going to be filming was on the first night, which was quite nerving. But we were very, very happy with what they'd done. We do actually in the office here, we do believe quite strongly that we shouldn't interfere with that side of it. If we're commissioning a director to direct or a wardrobe designer to design, let them get on with it. And it's our job to record it as faithfully as possible. So working through with Greenwich Theatre, I'd say that definitely the second two productions that we did, which were the Duchess of Malfi and Volpone, went much more smoothly. As we're learning to work together, and we know with the system, as it were, is bedded in, and certainly the complexities of actually filming the shows. Doing it the second time was much more straightforward, because we know where the cameras go, we know where the AV trucks go, and we know the permissions that have to be sought from Greenwich Council. All that technical stuff went through much more smoothly, and touch wood, we will be doing 4 more productions with them, starting either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, and they will be similar to the 4 that we've already produced. At the same time as doing that, we are now, I think now that we've established the sort of the genre, the type of plays that we're interested in, we've established the way that we film it, and the way that we produce, and the way that we edit, and how we distribute, and all the rest of it. We are now looking to talk to other theatre companies, especially if they do a production of a play that we are interested in. And I quite like the fact that if someone is interested in what we're doing, we can actually just send them a copy and say, this is how it's going to look, and this is what we expect from you, say in terms not only of access and the way that we film it, but also we are very keen to record an hour or two's worth of interviews with the full company. When we sign a contract with the director and the actors, it is actually within the contract that they will provide interviews. We've had a very nice company to work with at Greenwich for the last 4 productions, and it's incredibly helpful when things like the set and costume designer keeps all his rough sketches and lets us digitise them and put them on our website, so that students can go and see the initial sketch and the final costume and the initial set designs and the way it progressed and the way it changed. And I think that's, it's over and above, what we would expect. It's very kind of them to do that, and they can see that it's educationally, it is so valuable to a teacher.